regular meeting of City Council for Tuesday, September 20th to order. Just a few things I wanted to go over before we get into the delegations. We're just wearing orange shirts today in honor of Truth and Reconciliation Day on August 30th. This is our September 30th. This is our last meeting before then. So just to remember those those children that lost their lives and those that survived the schools back then. So thank you for that. Also, I wanted to just recognize and honor Jacqueline Jansen in our community from Networks, who passed away a little while ago. She's done a lot for our community. She's definitely a pillar in our community. And I've had the pleasure to work with her often. And she just had such an amazing heart and not a selfish bone in her body. Every time I met with her, it was just so inspiring how she was just all about giving back. And, I'm blessed to have had her in my life. And I know that the city is as well, and what she's done for our city. And her, the legacy she built will live on. She's will be very, very missed. So I want to say that. And then also another death we had was Queen Elizabeth. And I had this quote that I read the other day, so I just wanted to share it. But Queen Elizabeth II promised 4 years before she ascended to the throne in 1952. I declare before you that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong. And a pretty amazing life that she had, and I feel she did that. So I just wanted to start with a moment of silence for both of them. So if you could just join me in that, please. Thank you. Now 2 is our delegations. So 2.1, we have Melody Hauser, resident of Dawson Creek, and Alanda Stables, owner of Hug a Mug Cafe, in attendance to request for the First Responders Day. So ladies are welcome to just go up to the delegation and then just push the button on the mic. I got to make sure I turn it on, but I think I messed that up. There you go. There we go. Yeah, the floor is yours. Yeah.
Is it? Do I turn it or?
Yeah. No, it's all ready to go. Yeah, you can leave it wherever.
Good morning, Acting Mayor Dober and council people, council persons, many of whom are unfamiliar to me, probably the same in reverse. I think you probably received my 2 short handouts regarding the precedents that I have seen in Toronto and the United States regarding giving the first responders some honor and recognition. As a community, I just feel that our first responders as a whole are seeing things that are actually unique to the time, and they're probably having more internal challenges because of what they're seeing externally on a daily basis, and the calls they receive, even in the relatively good apartments in which we're living, very nicely managed in some respects, and the things that have happened in those apartments. And I don't know about pre-COVID, I wasn't in those particular apartments, but just the things that have happened, I just see the challenges that they're facing. That's on a small scale. And from what I'm seeing in the community, there's far more than there used to be. And I think we're all aware of that and what we've experienced with our families and cancer increases, things like that. It's just, I've often thought what they see on a daily basis, I could probably see once or twice, and actually I have, and didn't cope that well. Even a protracted cancer struggle in my family that just left me reeling for years. They were pretty sure I had something very similar to PTSD, if not that. And I go, these guys see this every day though. And I just feel really strongly compelled to ask for a day of recognition for them where we could have it annually, even on our calendar, to say either thank our first responders or just simply First Responders Day. And with that, I would like to include probably typically from what I've seen is paramedics, firefighters, police officers, but I'd like to include nurses and doctors. Then again, we know that they need some encouragement too. And it's our way as a community, because most of us, if we've had an experience, it's not the time where we turn in a ambulance, for example, and go, gee, I'm glad you're helping me. I really appreciate this. Or we're with someone and following an ambulance, or paramedic has helped us. It's later on, you don't really stop to think, gee, I should run over there and slip a note under the door or something. So to me, it's a collective way we could lift them up and just say, we really appreciate what you're doing. So I'm hoping that as you've probably perused these models, you see the United States already does this, October 22nd. And Toronto, which of course their capacity far exceeds ours, they have a whole week for police officers and on and on. But anything we can do is more than I've seen for a public recognition that way. Even if, like I said, it's a beginning verbally and on a calendar. And of course, my brain has been thinking of much more than that. So I've been talking to some of the grocery stores and other places, and most of them have literally said, I get goosebumps when you talk about this. It's very exciting to them. And the co-op especially has said anything we can do. Parking lots. They said, we have funding. We don't need any money. We want nothing. We want to just help any way we can. Just give us a date and we'll see what the weather is. We could give you co-op home parking lot, the block off the co-op parking lot, give you the indoors, bake some cakes, which I had in mind, some lower sugar, maybe a gluten-free, I'm thinking help. And, have a police car on one. This is my goal, just for the initial to make it a little easier. And then a fire truck on one, an ambulance on one, and a hospital on one. I really want to include the hospital. So I'm thinking big picture, but also trying to keep it small to scale to begin with, but the ideas coming from the businesses even, they just bless me. It's just incredible. So I'm wondering what you will all think of this.
Perfect.
So, trying not to be verbose.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you for coming in. I think it's, our first responders, it's amazing that you want to recognize them from our community. And I personally think they do a lot, and, I like the idea. So I'll open it up to any questions from Council Parslow.
I think it's a great idea. As the father of two first responders, I know the turmoil they go through. I'm just, you've identified 4 first responder groups: the hospital, the police, the firefighters, and the paramedics. I'm just throwing out a question to anybody. I'm always concerned when we do this that we miss some group out. I support a number of organizations in town who are dealing with supporting marginalized people. And I know some of those people experience some quite horrific things. So I'm just thinking more of, as I'm saying this, to some street workers, reconnect, social workers, and so on. I think they have some similar occurrences for sure. So I'm just saying, let's try and brainstorm and make sure we don't miss any group out. But thank you for your suggestion.
I like that idea.
Anybody else? Councillor Earl?
Thank you. I'm sorry for the mic. It seems to be on a bit of a fritz. So thank you for coming in to see us today. I think that is a lovely idea. As Councillor Parslow noted, I think this is something we'll have to spend a bit of time brainstorming on. Certainly, if Toronto is a municipality that does something, because there's always in reading through the package you provided, some of the things happening down south in the state seem to be federally driven as opposed to municipal. So just figuring out where we as a municipality fit into that, what exactly is the appropriate level of, we can't obviously copy what the federal government does or something like that, but it's a lovely sentiment, and I think one definitely worth further exploration.
Thank you.
Councillor Wilbur?
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. And as a daughter of a fire chief, thank you, because they have seen horrific things. And I can tell you, as a young girl being thrown into search and rescue, you're right. Sometimes when you see traumatic things, it takes a while to get over them. So I appreciate the work by our first responders and all of them. My question is, I noticed in the information you gave that Toronto really has focused on the month of May, where south of the border, they're focusing on October 28th. So when you're thinking of us creating this national or annual day of recognition, are you thinking the next month coming up in October, or are you thinking further planning and following in May? Like, do you have a specific date?
Truthfully, the papers I only wanted to use as a model to express that other places are doing this. But as for date, I thought that would be more relevant to leave it up to council, because you're more aware of, as this gentleman said, not just other people that may be involved, which I too thought of. It's bigger than this. But also because you're more aware of what your relevant dates already are and what's blocked off than I. So I thought it's best left up to you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Well, thank you very much for their presentation, and we'll bring this back under mayor's business, and whatever the decision is, we'll let you know at that point. So
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you for coming in.
listening.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. Is that me talking into? No. Oh, okay. So 2.2, we have Leanne Isu, the Engaged Sport Northern Manager, Athletics and Community Engagement for Northern Lights College in attendance to update on Lakota retrofit for the upcoming Northern Lights College Rodeo, October 8th and 9th. Welcome, Leanne. You already know what you're doing. You're a pro.
Thank you for having me here, Acting Mayor Dauber and councillors. Thank you very much. I'm really pleased to be here to give you guys the update. Lots has happened since I was able to come and speak with you last. The 2W chutes have been delivered. We've been very busy actively installing them in the Lakota. So the bucking chutes are in. We'll be using them for the first time on Wednesday. We have our first practice. And then we have BC High School Rodeo booked for this weekend. And the North Club will be here with athletes from grade 5 to grade 12. So they'll be competing right here in Dawson Creek this weekend. So I'm not sure. I had some slides to show you what it looks like, but I'm not really sure if they're here.
The slides are included on the agenda.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I didn't know if you needed any explanation to them. They're pretty self-explanatory, I guess. And then we had also put forward a letter regarding camping this weekend, as well as at the college rodeo. And if you guys had any questions or comments on that.
Okay. I think the letters that'll be brought in later on in the agenda. But I don't know if there is any questions regarding that. I guess now would be a good time. But does anybody else have any questions? Councillor Parslow?
No, I'm just totally impressed with the quality of these photographs. I'm kind of wondering who took them.
Myself.
Well done. They're beautiful pictures, and I think, are they your property, or could the city ever use them for something?
They are Engaged Sport North, but, they're in the Lakota. We are a user group of the Lakota. So, High School Rodeo is not... Engaged Sport North delivers the athletic and recreation for Northern Lights College. BC High School Rodeo isn't attached to that. So, they're using them for the first time this weekend. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like when the Mile Zero put the roping boxes in at the Lakota, as Mile Zero use them, but then other people use them. It's kind of the way it's at.
Just thinking, quite the city has a number of publications in include in its annual report and so on, and just to show the facilities that we have. I was thinking this might be something to add to our.
Yeah.
So maybe
Yeah.
staff can talk to you about that.
For sure. Yeah,
They're
we're
great pictures.
not quite finished with the look that we want to present
Yeah.
with them, obviously, but I wanted to give you the most recent update that I could. So
Yeah, thank you.
that's how it's looking so far, and it still is a bit of work in progress. We have gates that need tweaked and different things that once we put them into place, we're like, oh, it'd be a little bit better user friendly a different way. So it's still, the retrofit is still getting retrofit. So.
Anybody else? I just wanted to, thank you for your presentation and the pictures and your excitement and enthusiasm in doing this, because it's, I know it's awesome to see, and that pride and passion. And
Yeah.
I had one question. The high school, we were talking a bit in the hall, but you said the high school rodeo is going to be using this. Is this something that they wouldn't have used before? Like
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. High school rodeo booked a provincial a few years ago. My son was in grade 8, and it was at the outdoor. And then
Okay.
we had snow that May long weekend. And in a very impromptu, lots of board workers working together, we managed to move it into the Lakota. And so all of BC was here. But that is their impression. We're hoping that we can do a provincial again to change that last impression that they have, because this is obviously going to be much more professionally done. And we're looking forward to more BC high school rodeo, and then on a provincial level, maybe Canadians down the road. Right now, Canadians they were at Merritt in BC a couple years ago, and then they've been in Saskatchewan. They're going to Manitoba next year. But then, by the time it comes back to BC, that facility definitely would be working well. Or we look at the outside arena, because a lot of times it's in July and August, which would work in the outdoor venue as well.
Yeah.
But it definitely, having this facility will grow the sport of rodeo in the North Peace, South Peace area, because it gives us another venue. Currently, the only other venue is in Chetwynd or in Teepee Creek. So, in the wintertime, my kids were in the junior rodeo in Teepee Creek, but, to leave here at -20 icy roads, it's a bit daunting. So we didn't continue after the first year. It's great. Their association's doing well, but now this creates an opportunity for perhaps a junior rodeo league in the winter to operate. The college, Northern Lights College, our season is October, November. We can have one in the fall. Ideally, we'll have one again in the spring. We'll host a college rodeo. And it just kind of will build from that, because you have that indoor facility to do this at.
That's great. Also, talking to you earlier, you mentioned, I was wondering if you could share just about how you have to be in college doing the rodeo and what that's done for the numbers in our community.
That's correct. So Northern Lights College is the only sanctioned college in British Columbia. So we are able to sanction our athletes, attend Northern Lights College, but any BC post-secondary. So we have athletes that are in Prince George at UNBC. They're able to rodeo on our team as well. So it brings them up to Dawson. But we're attracting students from all over the province, BC, as well as Alberta. And we even have an Australian on the team this year.
When you also said students were furthering their education just to stay in the
Absolutely.
rodeo,
So
right?
from BC High School Rodeo, we have a pretty strong group. And then a lot of them are like, okay, well, I have to sell my horse and get a job. Well, this is providing them an extra opportunity to stay local, especially our local athletes. And they're getting their tickets, say in welding or in hairstylist, and they're able to continue to still rodeo and go to Northern Lights College and, train local, stay local is kind of, we're hoping we're a part of that plan. And as well as we're bringing people up, the young fella from Merritt that we brought up here last year in carpentry, he got his carpentry apprentice. He's our Canadian champion in tie-down roping, moved back to Merritt. He's moving back in the fall because the work is so good up here. Awesome. So we tried to get him to rodeo for us again on his apprenticeship, but he's his work schedule, he might not be able to make the rodeos, but at least, he's alumni, come to our practices. So
And we gained a resident.
come again, yeah. And they can rodeo until they're age 30. So on an apprentice, they can apprentice for 4 years under their apprenticeship and rodeo Yeah, we're pretty excited for the growth that it's happened. We had a team of, 3 to 4 the first couple of years. This year, again, we're sitting on 17 to 20 in our teams. So
Very exciting. And
Yeah.
Great to see. So
thanks. And I just wanted to touch on, too, we did send out a sponsorship opportunity package for the first Northern Lights College Rodeo. Not sure where that ended up, but I should probably follow up with someone if anyone here would like to look further at that, if they would like to contribute. We are still looking for event sponsors and different support for that, the rodeo that's coming October 8th and 9th. I hope it's all on your calendar.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great venue.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
No other?
Thank you very much
Yeah,
for letting me come and give the update.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate it.
Okay, bye-bye.
See you later. 2.3, we have Kathleen Connolly, the CEO of Dawson Creek District and Chamber of Commerce, and Jack Walsh, business owner of Mickey J's Enterprises Limited, in attendance. Reason the proposed safe injection site on 836 103rd Avenue. And then there's also some letters and an email submitted on behalf of some of the residents and business owners. So. Hi, Kathleen. Hey, Jack.
Good morning.
Welcome. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship and Council and everybody in the room. Jack, I've got Jack Walsh with me and some folks who wrote the letter, but I'm just going to give a really sort of quick introduction, and then I'd like Jack to speak, and then if there are questions. This was in light of the temporary user permit that was we had heard would be considered by council for the snow house down by, is it
836 103rd.
Right. So we understand that TUP is not before council today, so we won't be speaking directly to it, but we would like to speak on behalf of the business community about what our sort of concerns are about sort of activity that's happening in the downtown core. So our job as a chamber is really to support and speak for our business community. And so, and I know, speaking to Blair, that we've both been overwhelmed with calls about concerns about some of the activity in the downtown core. I think it's important to note that traffic isn't only in the downtown core, that we're really seeing increases in criminal behavior and sort of unsavory behaviors happening throughout the entire city. We see increases in the noted behavior. It's distressing to see broken windows in the downtown core. Facebook, every day we're seeing break-ins for our business communities or stuff being stolen, issues of loitering and stuff like that. In light of those concerns that we've been hearing regularly, the Dawson Creek Chamber today is sitting in front of council expressing some of those concerns on behalf of our membership. We also have a town hall, which Mayor Dober and possibly Blair will be joining us tomorrow, along with Northern Health, BC Housing, the RCMP, to talk about the concerns that our business owners are experiencing. We also have for our businesses a one-on-one session with the RCMP via Zoom on Thursday to talk about these concerns. So clearly it is top of mind for our businesses and something that we definitely as a community need to be discussing. We would ask, honestly, at the end of the day, that the city is, and I know that there are challenges working with the province, but really looking at moving those sort of facilities outside of the downtown core where we're seeing heavy traffic. And so at the end of the day, we would hope that council, number one, would really reach out to the business community should the temporary user permit come in. I think it's really important that we be a part of that conversation. And we'll be talking about things things like Citizens on Patrol, private security companies. We've got a security company joining us tomorrow night. Increased police presence, those sort of things. But I think today, and why I have Jack in the letter with me, is to really talk about some of those concerns that we're seeing and how it's affecting traffic into some of those businesses. And along with that, really, I think the concern of those business owners is, what does that do to property values? I know it's a conversation we have all the time, but it's something that they're talking about. They're also talking about sort of those evening hours or early morning hours. Do people feel safe traveling through our downtown core? I can tell you, in my office, I am in the middle of downtown core. I'm never in my office past 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You just see an increase in behaviors that I'm a little old lady. I don't necessarily feel being comfortable exposed to that. And so we're seeing those behaviors on a more regular basis, certainly as the summer has moved along. And I think concerns around loitering, I know Jack can speak to that. And, if we have issues with people and housing being a concern, where will they be in the winter months? And so really, we're asking for an opportunity to be consulted and to have the business community be engaged in not only the decisions, but also in managing and mitigating those decisions. And so we would just ask for that opportunity going forward. And that's sort of all I have to say. Was there something you'd like to say, Jack?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I recently just purchased 833 Place, which is the old Legion building. So we have 8 businesses in there. And they've all obviously phoned me, what's going on? Can you help us out? And I said, I'll do my best I can. Pretty multi-use building. We have a dojo in it with the young kids in there from, 4 to 8 o'clock, Monday through Thursday. Obviously a health food store with all the senior citizens coming in and out. We have another client just moved into the building here. She's just starting a brand new business, as you can see. So, they're quite concerned about the temporary use permit. So I was just here to be totally opposed against that. And if it's going to be brought forward, can we be consulted on it is kind of what we're going to. I've only owned the building since May. And since May, I've had to forcibly remove 2 people from my main lobby because we have a bench there and they're sleeping in there, they're eating in there, they're doing stuff, right? I'm going, okay, you can't be in here. And I'm a little bit uncomfortable doing that myself because that's not my job as a businessman to be policing and doing stuff in there. So I just thought I wrote a letter. So if I wrote a letter to council, I should probably show up in person to back the letter I wrote so you can see who wrote the letter and why I wrote the letter. And say, I do have 8 businesses in there right now. I have one client who's thinking about not re-signing the lease in October, depending on where this goes, right? So there's a concern on that side too. Definitely want to be in the forefront helping and creating solutions. So I think if we get a full meeting or be involved in any kind of discussions going forward, if this TUP is to come forward, I'd like to be included or as part of with the chamber. I am a member of the chamber with one of my other businesses. And that's basically all I have to say. Just we are opposed against that TUP on that 836 103 Avenue for where the snow house is currently located. So thank you for your time.
Councillor Parslow?
First of all, I appreciate what's been said. A number of us were at UNBC, Union of BC Municipalities, and this topic is a province-wide topic. It's complex, multi-layered. Its impact on people is devastating. I think as a general comment, if I may make a general comment, there are many examples where partners in the community have gone to their municipalities prior to the enactment and implementation of any scheme and said, this is what we're thinking of doing, and we need to plan this. And I think that has been totally absent. Maybe an erroneous statement to use the word totally. So I'm going to use seems to be largely absent, if I may say, from this side of the table. And I think staff has been quite clear about that. So that's why what Jack said resonates with me. Okay, you'd like to be part of the discussion. The other thing that burns me up a bit that we haven't had any consultation from at this side of the table from anyone, and our partners, and the chamber is a partner, as is the business community, as are social workers, and so on. And we could have had possibly some dialogue and some brainstorming of what might be some of the issues that fall out from this and how can we mitigate them. And when I attended UNBC and I sent this material to Blair, our CAO, and to Darcy got it as well. And of course, the people at UNBC all had it. But I was amazed to read, and I'm just going to read a part, if I may, a couple of things here that could have helped us fund any solution. The province also advised of the Community Wellness and Harm Reduction Grant funding program for initiatives that build on community wellness, safety, and harm reduction efforts related to the overdose crisis and saving lives. 24 municipalities and their community partners received up to $50,000 through this program. The province also noted that the Strengthening Community Services Funding Program provides $100 million to local governments to support unsheltered homeless populations and strengthen communities' health and safety. This program includes harm reduction services, cleaning, security, and management services for activities eligible for funding. Security is a big one. I could read many things here, but I'm trying to say, had various groups said, hey, this is what we're thinking of doing, city could have responded by maybe facilitating various meetings, and we could look about the planning, location, ways of mitigating it. And I heard Kathleen talk about some security service. It could all be funding if we had a systematic, planned approach. So when I read this thing, when I was at UNBC, I got kind of extra supportive of what staff has been saying, and this council. We were not engaged. We were sidelined on this, and it shouldn't be that way. So let's see how we can correct this, because the business community, and as one lady wrote in her letter nicely, our brothers and sisters who need help, everybody's suffering. And so, yes, I look forward to the dialogue about ways of resolving this, but appealing to any group who's thinking about doing something like services new, to engage council and to engage other people before implementation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation and your letter, Jack, and coming to say this is who I am and that's my letter. We have one OPS site, that is at the Nowickan Warming Shelter. That was put in by Northern Health. And to Councillor Parslow's point, and to my colleagues on council, we weren't aware till after the fact. So now we're acting reactively, and we're trying to work through that. With Snow House, again, they did come and present, and I know myself, I spoke to, we need to separate the two facilities because they're doing different things. There is a TUP being put together. They will come and talk to you. That is part of them putting that through and having a plan and being upfront and talking to their neighbors. And they are going to do that. And they won't put that TUP in until they've done that. They want to make sure they get it right. As a wellness center, they fit within the zoning that they're in. And what I'm most impressed of with the service that they're providing is cleaning up the needles in the neighborhood, in the community. And so they have a sharp box program, and it ran very well in their old location, and we didn't have complaints. I think we had a total of 2, which were easily fixed. They haven't been open since May. They've only opened recently, and you will hear from them. I have helped them with their paperwork, which at the end of the day, whenever that TUP becomes part of the table and discussion at council, I will be claiming a conflict of interest because I have helped them with that process, and that's the right thing to do. And in that process, I've been adamant that they must speak to the owners and the renters, all of their neighbors. They must speak to council because that's where the disconnection is. So when we see the letter about our sisters and our brothers, these are our families. These are someone's children. So how do we collectively together support them, but not remove them from the services that they need? So they have to have access. Many of them don't drive. Many of them are on foot. And yes, some are homeless. And so these are all things the community is going to have to look after. And I know this community can. I've seen it before. I've seen it when a young mother with 2 children's house burnt down before Christmas, and we all rallied together and they had the best Christmas ever. So I know we can do this together, but I want to assure you, you will be a part of that conversation, and so will council, and that is the right thing to do. So I just wanted to make that clear. I don't have all the answers. I've collected a lot of information. I'm going to do high level when we get to councillor business, but it was pieces we didn't have before, but now we have them. So thank you for coming, but I wanted to be clear on that we can do this together, and you will be a part of that discussion.
We've heard a lot from the community, and we're taking all of those seriously. It's a voice that's out there, and we realize that there's these people that these services are there for. They're real people. They're somebody's parent. There's kids. So it's about how do we do this together. And I understand a bit the past that maybe things could have been done differently, but that's the reality today is it was done that way. So what are we doing moving forward? And this council has said that, we want to do what's right. We just need all the information. And so thank you for coming in. And
Thank you, Darcy.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor. I think at the end of the day, we want a safe community for everybody. And so we need to work collectively to find ways to make sure that happens. And so without a shadow of a doubt, we want to support those that are underrepresented, for sure. We want to support communities that are marginalized. We want to do it in a way that everybody in our community feels safe. And so it is about that conversation collectively on how we create safe communities. And we are happy to engage and participate in any way around doing that. And I think it is important to recognize your point that Northern Health maybe wasn't as engaging around consultation as they needed to be. And I would have the same conversation around some of the other facilities. And so I think we need to take opportunity to clearly have those conversations to get out what is fact and what it is that we can manage and mitigate. And so collectively, I know to Councillor Wilbur's point, we can do that and we want to participate. And so we thank you for this opportunity and we look forward to working with you all on it as we move our community forward, right? Thank you so much.
You bet. Thanks, Kathleen. Thanks, Jack.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah. Moving on, we got number 3, late items. I don't think there's no late items. No. So number 4, new councillor business.
Charlie, go first.
It's like a race there. Councillor Parslow.
Well, I thought so. This is, I better get this topic dealt with. As one of my school board chairpersons used to say, he was chair for many years, I've been eavesdropping around the community. Well, I popped in to see a person I've met in my role for many times as a councillor, a wonderful guy, and his wife, and for coffee. And he raised an issue with me that I promised to bring to this table. And I haven't had time to warn council about this, staff about this, so I apologize for that. And it's just a real issue, and it's all to do with the disposal of grass trimmings, the new site, the location, and they're pleased that that's there, but they say that it's been built in the wrong direction from the point of view when you go to unload all your grass trimmings with the prevailing wind from the west, you get covered with grass trimmings. And could it be reversed so that the loading is in a direction where the prevailing wind is at your back? So I said I would mention this at council, and I will share the name with Blair when in privately. And I thought his solution was an interesting one. So I'll be chatting with you privately about that. But I've done my civic duty of presenting the issue. So thank you.
Thank you. Kevin, did you want to speak to that? Yeah.
Through you, Acting Mayor Dober, thank you for the question. So I guess the quick answer is, of course, we could change it. It'll only take some money. The reason that it was situated the way it was is that we have some existing infrastructure on that site. We have some water and a hydrant and some concrete pads in place. And so when we looked at the design, if we were to situate it in a different manner, we would have had to have removed all that infrastructure. And so when we looked at it, it was just simply, did we want to remove that infrastructure that we do use and have to replace it somewhere else? So it was really just came down to the cost of that. So yeah, that was the trade-off at the time.
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur.
Thank you. I'm going to try and be quick. So yes, I was fortunate enough to attend UBCM, so Union of BC Municipalities AGM last week. And let me tell you, it was packed, and my colleagues and I that attended put on a lot of miles, gathered a lot of information. So I have had stuff sent out to council, first off regarding MIABC, so I am the representative for the community for that. And I've sent out the AGM booklet as well as policy and different changes to what MIABC has. So part of those changes we're catching up with today's world. So for virtual meetings, allowing voting electronically, that kind of stuff. So we're all having to do that. So these are some simple changes, but I've presented that to council, so you have it. And as the acting mayor said, I probably delivered 300 and some pages of information. So it was a busy week. But really what I want to touch on, and that has also been sent out, and I have it. I know it will be available to everybody. One was UBCM's work that they've been doing with the provincial government. And so it's ensuring local government financial resiliency. It's a very in-depth package, and I think it's something that needs to be considered by council now as we make decisions, but also councils in the future, what the work is that UBCM's doing. So there are a lot of pieces in here that maybe we weren't aware of or we weren't watching, but it's a great information package, and I encourage everyone to read it because there are pieces in there where there's funding available, where there's support available from UBCM. So that's something, this is their first report that came out in August, and they delivered it at the AGM. And then secondly, looking at, and I know Councillor Parzo touched on it a bit earlier, but looking at crime prevention and community safety planning, the opioid crisis, all of that. So something that I was able to gather actually from a colleague from another community who also, like many, are having the same issues. So there is actually a Safe Communities kit, and there's also a community crime prevention guide. So it helps you assess your community. It helps you identify where the areas are, maybe issues that need work. But also, unbeknownst to me, but now I know. So in spring, this year's intake is done. But there's actually crime prevention and remediation program grants. So the closest to us who received several thousands of dollars, I think the lowest one was $27,000, was Prince George. So these are grants for communities, whether they be through a partner user group or the community itself, that can apply for these grants to help with crime prevention, harm reduction, wellness centers, and service providers who provide wraparound services in the community. So I think this is something worth looking at in the spring to see what we qualify for to help our community with all the things that are going on. And then, see how fast I'm going? Whew. Gotta breathe. And then the other thing is I actually sat with a very nice lady from a smaller community than ours, but she's a mental health nurse. She has a caseload of 75 files. Their hospital has 7 beds for psychiatric assessment. They usually run 9, so they're always over capacity. And she said something that communities need to be looking at, which was interesting because her husband is a CAO. So, I think she was making a hint to him as well. But we need to look at how do we help our RCMP and first responders to be able to provide more wellness checks? And secondly, how do we support wellness centers, which are a benefit to the community, and take the strain off our emergency services in the hospital and outside with those wellness checks? Because those wellness centers, especially those that have social workers, can help provide that service. So that is also something to look at. And UBCM has promised that all of the slideshows, the information that we've seen, gathered, made notes on, will be available around the end of the month for communities to download. So that is my 2 cents nutshell version of UBCM.
Thank you, Councillor Wilbur. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship, or your acting worship. I don't know how the honorarium goes. With 2 meetings left, I'm not learning, so I'll just be what it'll be. 3, sorry. I also had the pleasure to attend UBCM. It was a very busy and interesting week. We got to meet with some ministry staff around a couple issues of importance to the taxpayers, which I'll, when I get a chance to type it up, I will send out to council. One thing I did want to bring particular attention to, just because it is topical given the presentation we received and the fact that, as Councillor Parslow noted, the ongoing challenges around the opioid and overdose crisis and harm reduction in safe communities is something that is being felt by municipalities all across British Columbia. There was palpable frustration from all municipal representatives with the provincial government and with health authorities with respect to what they felt was a failure to stand up the appropriate supporting services that come along with harm reduction, mental health, detox, things of that nature, and that it was essentially being dropped in the laps of municipalities which were not resourced or equipped to capably deal with it. And as we've seen, that results in unforced errors which complicate our efforts to address this very real and very tragic crisis. One thing, and I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but one thing which could additionally complicate this, which we haven't as a municipality received a great deal of information from the provincial government is on January 31st, 2023, several drugs which are currently classified as Schedule 1 are going to be decriminalized with personal possession upwards of 2.5 grams, including heroin, cocaine, crack, MDMA, and a couple others. And while, in this day and age, most police forces don't charge for small amounts of personal use, there is a complicating factor which is very much relevant to us here in the Peace, given that we're a 20-minute drive from the Alberta border, which is still going to have those laws in place. I don't yet know how people engaged in organized crime are going to exploit that to their own benefit. But if there is an angle there, they're going to find it and exploit it. And my concern is that we haven't received a lot of information. I'm not sure. I don't get a good sense that our local RCMP have been received the appropriate level of training to understand how this is going to affect how they do their job. Moreover, I don't get a sense that necessarily the different jurisdictions at the border are communicating with how we're going to address this. So another potential complication to an already very, very challenging situation, and it might be worth asking the higher-ups at the RCMP what if they could either present to council or give us some sense of what training is being provided and what resources are going to accompany this change in provincial policy, so that we're not, we've already got some very vulnerable people. You don't want to see them further taken advantage of by those engaged in organized crime and the ancillary criminal activity which often accompanies this. So just a thought, and it was one thing that was very, very prevalent among all the municipal representatives, is just concern that we as municipalities are not properly resourced to deal with the various complications that could arise from this. And we want to make sure, because when this stuff goes sideways, as we've seen, yes, it's inconvenient and frustrating for communities, but people who are hit hardest are the people that are the most vulnerable. So just making sure we're all on the same page prior to January 31st, I think, is of great importance. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Anybody else? Thank all of you that attended. No, you're not allowed to anymore.
Thanks. Yep, I think the consensus of all four of us was it was really a good use of time and resources. I'm not preaching anything on a partisan level, but I must admit that some of the things that the leader of the opposition said, Kevin Fulton, transcend party lines, and I think they were very well placed. Outcomes over ideology struck me. Service over self. Stop the blame game. Start working on solutions. 40% of BC residents are within $200 a month of being unable to pay their bills. And I'd like us to reflect on that when we set tax rates and other things. There's a lot of people close to the line who do not enjoy six-figure salaries and so on. The issue that both my colleagues who went, all the colleagues who went, I think was maybe shocked by, and again, I'm just some notes that I took from Kevin Fulton's speech. You know, in Terrace, as an example, one person has been arrested over 200 times this year. 200 times. It's a catch and release system. In Kelowna, 15 people are responsible for over 1,000 negative interactions with the police. In Vancouver, 40 people have been responsible for over 3,500 negative interactions. We have got to change. Our system is broke. Things are not working. Many of these people need help. Mental health issues, drug abuse. And I believe that the likely leader of the NDP party is saying that, and Kevin Fulton supports this, cross-boundary lines, this is an issue, is that some people need to be required to have extensive supports. Releasing them is not doing anything for our community and for their health. So there's looking at compulsory treatment. But for that, The province needs to provide resources and services. The municipal governments can't possibly do this. So as much as all of us could share, but that's just some things to add to the issue that we're going to be listening to tomorrow concerning our own situation. But I thought I'd share those facts as background.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anything else? Moving on. Next order of business is 5, adoption of minutes. Get a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular Councillor Earl, second Councillor Kempf. Any amendments to the minutes? Okay, I'll call the vote. Voting's closed. Carried. Also, can I get a motion for 5.2 minutes of the special meeting of council on August 26th, 2022 for adoption? Councillor Kempf, second. Councillor Wilbur. Any amendments to the minutes? Call the vote. Forgot to look at you, sorry. Voting's closed. Do I need to do that again? It's carried? Okay. Was there any business arising? I don't need a motion for that one, right? Okay. So we'll get into 7 correspondence. 7.1, we got an email from Stephanie Hansen, resident of Dawson Creek. August 18th, 2022, reason installation of crosswalks lights on the 17th Street before 89th Avenue. Is there a motion or? Councillor, where am I doing here? Councillor Parslow?
I know that this topic has come before council in the past. I have raised this issue in the past. I had 2 grandchildren who made their perilous way down that street and across there. I noticed with interest that the village of Poostkupi installs those speed bumps, temporary speed bumps, I must admit, but they're there for the half the year. And I've wondered about speed bump installation here in this community. If I go to Grand Prairie, there's not temporary speed bumps in some areas, there are permanent speed bumps. The argument against it from colleagues sitting opposite has been all to do with snow clearing. I've also wondered why, again, like this lady points out, why in that area it is a 50. Now, the approach is 50, right in front of the school is 30. But I've wondered about that. And so I have a lot of empathy and share the concerns about this. So I wondered what staff's reaction is today about this and to speed bumps.
Kevin?
Through you, Acting Mayor Dober. So I guess first thing, speed bumps. Yeah, I've seen in Poos, they have done temporary ones. It should be noted that speed bumps would not be appropriate on what is an arterial road, 17th Street. Speed bumps would be much more appropriate if we're to pursue something like that. They'd be in local roads, so typically residential areas. Arterial roads, which 17th Street is meant to move traffic, so you wouldn't see typically speed bumps on that. The speed zone is 50K everywhere in town unless otherwise posted, so the school zone's 30. It is 50 all the way from the north side of the school all the way out of town, but that doesn't mean people drive 50. So we can put up whatever signs we like. That may change some behaviors, but likely not everybody's. In regards to the crosswalk that's requested in this letter, we did one recently this year over on 8th Street. The cost is between $16,000 and $20,000 to supply and install those. So that's what that impact is. Yeah, any questions on that?
Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
You do need a.
So let's throw out an alternative. I don't know your views about whether 17th Street heading south from Dawson Creek is arterial when it leaves the city boundaries, but I noticed I drive it every day. As an alternative, they have grooves in the road which warn you of your approaching a danger area. In this case, a place where several accidents have occurred, where it intersects with the bypass route. What is the view of staff concerning replicating that as you approach the school zone from either direction? It serves to warn you that, hey, something's coming up. In this case, the something coming up might be a crosswalk. It might be you're entering a school zone.
Just to interject, do we need a motion before we're discussing this? Yes. Thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
I was going to call point of order and ask exactly that. So
are you making a
do we
motion?
all make the motion, but it's not to discuss, right? So to pull it? If I could have direction, please.
Yes, through you, Acting Mayor, the motion would be to either approve or deny the request or to receive for information, which would cancel any further discussion.
We have a motion to direct staff to look further into this, to bring something back to us on the cost of what it, or what our community plan is as well.
So I would make that motion then to move to direct staff to further explore this and bring back a report on costs and effectiveness.
Can you get a seconder? Any discussion, Councillor Wilbur?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
It's a very dark zone, so I think we need to explore it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Yes.
So we can come with the cost. The last one was $21,000. We spoke about this when the one on 8th Street was asked for. There are a number of locations in our city I'm sure that we could receive the same letters for. I think that it will be a council discussion that we're going to need if we want to bring, or you bring your wishes as a council body to say we would like to install one of them, two of them, here's 6 locations. We can budget for that. But I'm not sure if the report is just cost. I can give you that today. It's going to be in the $20,000 to $21,000 range. But if it is on a broader wish to say, look, what have we received in the past? What have you as elected officials received in the past as far as concerns to bring a package together? At $20,000 each, it can add up to a significant budget item, and it is safety. So it's got to be a prime concern for everybody. So I'm just really seeking some clarity on the wish. We will bring back the report that you request from us. But if it is just the cost, I think I could save that time today. But if it's broader, we can do that as well.
Councillor Wilbur, did you want to add?
Yeah, just follow up. So then through you, Chair, to staff, are we aware now of other areas that have been identified? So my concern with this particular area is there are no streetlights. It is dark. And so we have children coming into winter months that are going to be crossing a very busy street to get to school. So I know the one on 8th was identified. I know we've had other places in the past years, and we've put systems in place. So I guess, and to the person who seconded the motion, what is the wish of all of council? The reality is it is safety. We need to do something. So if it's a matter that you can give us costs and we can make a decision on this particular site today, then I would be prepared to do that. But if we know of other identified sites, then maybe there's a bigger picture here to look at.
Thank you. Just one comment I had on this, I know last time it was brought up in council about the one on 8th Street, I brought it up then too, like if, I understand that there's safety and it's obviously a top priority, but if we get letters that we need one down here and we need one down here, like, are we just going to continue to put them in, or like, is there not a master plan that the city has where, there's a certain amount of traffic in areas where we should be putting these? Because it's hard to, if we get a letter on 116th Street, like that's a busy street with a lot of kids walking on it. Like, are we, is there a bigger plan or a bigger purpose where these crosswalks are supposed to go? And I'm not downplaying their concern, because I agree. I think, without lights and, there's children there, it's important. But I'm just looking at the bigger picture of it to draw, to spend $20,000 per request, like it could add up pretty quick, is my thoughts. So. Councillor Javetkov, sorry.
So my feeling is that it's an obvious thing. There's a need there, and rather than study it, I would prefer to make a motion to install one. $20,000, I guess you could look at it like the lights at 116th and 8th Street. Do you wait until there's a serious accident and then do it? These lights that we're installing are very effective. I was coming down 102nd yesterday, and there were people. I was about 2 blocks away, but there were people crossing at the community living office there, and the lights are flickering on both sides. I mean, you have to stop. There's no two ways about it. It's so obvious, and it's, for the price of $20,000, I think that we need to do them. And you can do a study on the whole town, I guess, but we've got probably hundreds of crosswalks. But I have no problem with responding to these kind of requests. They're, in my mind, they're small budget items. So, we can spend $30,000 or $40,000 on a supper at the fall fair and, support things like that. So anyways, if we defeat this motion that's on the table, I'd be prepared, or somebody could make a motion to, provide a light there at that location.
Okay. Just 1 second. Brenda, there's a motion on the floor, so do we need to either make an amendment to that or deal with that motion first?
Yes, that's correct. The motion on the floor is to have staff explore costs and bring back a report with options.
Okay, so can Councillor Wilbur withdraw her motion?
Once the motion is moved and seconded, it belongs to all of council.
Trying to make it easy.
Okay. So is there any more discussion to the motion on the floor? Councillor Parslow? No? Okay.
No, my comments were
Okay, so-
procedural. So we deal with this motion first, and I want to say something.
Okay. No more discussion. I'll call a vote. Voting's closed and motion is defeated. Councillor Javetkov?
I'll move that we comply with the request and install a light fixture there.
Crosswalk.
With a dollar value or?
Whatever it is. I mean, if it's 18,000, yeah, let's do it. If it's 22, yeah, let's do it. Whatever the cost is.
Do I have a seconder?
Sure.
Councillor Kemp, discussion? Kevin, were you wanting to, or? Okay, so do we need that in the motion?
Pedestrian activated crosswalk.
Okay, Councillor Javetkov, let's make the motion.
Well, it's to repeat myself. I mean, it's to me, it's a small cost to prevent some kind of an accident there, and it doesn't matter whose child it is or anybody that gets injured in a situation like that. I don't think we want to be the ones that prevent that structure from going in.
Thank you. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one or two questions through to staff to confirm with the way supply chains are this year. Is this material we'll have on hand and be able to stand up prior to the winter months, or is this a next year thing? And number two is, if it's a this year thing, I presume it would come out of the capital reserve. If it's a next year thing, I guess it's something we'd put in the capital budget.
Kevin?
So through you, Acting Mayor, we'll have to check on the supply. When we did the one earlier this year, it seems to me it wasn't too far out. I mean, nothing unusual, but that could have certainly changed from spring till fall.
I just noticed there was frost on the ground this morning.
Yes.
So if we're going to be putting stuff in the ground,
So we'll have to check that. As far as the install of them, we can do that for some time yet. So I think the first thing is determine when we could actually get them. What I'm hearing is if we can get them this fall, council is what I'm sensing is they'd like it in this fall. As soon as possible, as soon as we're able to get it is what I'm hearing.
Thank you. I guess my part on this is I'm, totally for the safety of our community and doing this. I'm just, it doesn't seem right to just be spending money and approving stuff just on a request, which is, it's an extremely valid request and I understand it, but you open the door to this, we're going to, potentially this could be like often where we're getting these requests. So that's my thought is that we, if it's 25,000 or 30,000, that we're going to just pull out of the budget each time somewhere. Like, I think there should be a bigger plan. Like there's, the Rotary Trail that crosses Main Street. So there's a lot of different areas. So, that could use this where there's lots of kid traffic. So, to do it, I respect the letter and the concern for sure. It's all about community safety and I get that. So that's just where I stand on it. So, Kevin?
Yes, sorry, just one more thing, Acting Mayor. So we do have a transportation master plan. When that was done, I think around 2013, 2014, these signs were fairly new. And so I believe it spoke to it only in a couple of spots, one of them being down at near Community Living on 102nd. But again, they weren't as popular as they are now. And I think what people have realized is that they are effective. And they definitely work, but they come at a cost. So typical traffic management, techniques for this area is what we have up there right now, is a painted crosswalk, a couple double-sided crosswalk signs, and that's the standard.
Yeah.
But this is a step above, and 100% they're effective, but there's a cost. So I guess what I'm saying is we have a transportation master plan. They don't really speak to this, but I think to provide council some guidance into the future, we may want to look at having some parameters of where we look at these. Mm-hmm. It may be appropriate at this size site, which I think it is because it's on an arterial, there's lots of traffic and it's on the edge of town and there's schools, might make sense. But maybe if someone was requesting this in a local road area, which is much quieter, it may not be, but that's maybe some policy that would help guide council to make those decisions into the future we might need to look at.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, even for future budgeting, that if we have that plan, that it's, considered into your guys' budgets for previous next year. So I think there's been enough discussion about this, so I'm going to call the vote. Vote is closed. Carried. 7 point. I want to get moving forward.
All right.
7.2 of a letter from Northern Development Initiative Trust. Reason the request for letter of support, development of integrated booking software for passenger travel in Northern BC. Councillor Parslow?
I'd like to move that we support this request.
Have a seconder? Councillor Wilbur? Councillor Porslow?
Passenger services in the north are threadbare. Many people are frustrated about the lack of service, so having an improved access to what does exist will only help people.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Earl?
Just some, I appreciate the sentiment here. But as Councillor Parslow said, I mean, we don't have Greyhound anymore coming through, if I'm correct. What passenger services are they referring to that are available in Dawson Creek between communities? And how would that, I mean, I get it, you have to start somewhere, and certainly if it makes it more accessible, but as far as I'm aware, I mean, it doesn't mention air transportation of any kind. So are they just, other than people outside Prince George for the north, how does this impact our community?
Councillor Parslow, did you want to?
Well, there's a BC bus service that has a schedule in Dawson Creek that takes people south.
BC North.
And you can also get a bus once a week to Fort Nelson and back. I thought there was also, and I'm not aware of that schedule, but it would be helpful to have it should anybody wants to use it. But I made the assumption in response to Councillor Earl saying that it would include air transportation. That was an assumption. It's not explicit, right?
Yeah, based on the letter, that's not what I saw.
Yeah.
Use of transportation. Okay. Any more discussion?
Thank you.
Call the vote. Vote is closed. Something happened there, Brenda?
Yeah, we did get the vote.
Okay, it was carried. Okay. 7.3, we have an email from Maya Sharma, Canadian Lung Cancer Screening Initiative, September 2nd, request to post lung cancer screening awareness poster at the Bork Aquatic Center. Councillor Wilbur?
I would move that we grant their request. And also add that we would place posters downstairs here at City Hall,
As well as
the Bork Aquatic Center.
a seconder, Councillor Kempf. Any discussion? Councillor Earl? Actually, yeah. Claire, did you want to speak to it? Just have Blair speak to it.
A quick one. So this is a request for the Bork Aquatic Center. I think what we want to think about is if the request is for all of our facilities, I do think it would be appropriate that our social media page, it could be handled on. But I am not sure, how much capacity we would have at each of our facilities should we start responding to everyone requesting this is all I'm pointing out. So I think in the new world of which I'm not really part of with social media, that may be our best approach when we get these requests moving forward, that's how we would ensure that the public is aware of such a good cause as the one that's being spoke about here today. So.
Thank you. Councillor Earl?
I just wanted to, in Councillor Wilbur's motion, she says we grant the request. There is a second part to the request. Inquire about any opportunities for the CLCSI to give virtual presentation about lung cancer and lung cancer screening. Does your motion include inviting them to make that presentation, or is that a separate matter?
Councillor Wilbur?
I think that's a separate matter. My motion is speaking directly to the posters. And I did mention putting them in City Hall. And I just want to add that we have worked with this association before when we created our distance from doorways where you could smoke, our signage, that kind of stuff. So we've worked with them before. It is a social media world, but I do believe they have their own campaign online, which we could share as individuals. But I think we do have a poster community board at the Lakota Center, as well as we do have one down on the main floor of City Hall. Thank you.
So Brenda, do we need an amendment to the motion then? Because the motion refers to the letter.
Through you, Acting Mayor, it's up to council if they wanted to amend the motion or not.
Just want to leave the motion. Okay. Councillor Earl, did you have more to?
No. I just wanted some clarification as to whether we were also inviting him to speak with us.
I'll just speak a little bit on my part on this. Is I'm totally for the support of this, but what does happen as we allow this, them to put posters at the Bork Aquatic and City Hall? Are we now? One, it seems weird that would come to council to me, but is there like a policy in place that doesn't allow this already? Is that why it's come to council? Oh, that's me.
Through Acting Mayor and Council, what happens sometimes we get a whole bunch of posters coming at Bork Aquatic Centre, so at certain times we do have a request for them to, certain posters we will post, so I imagine that's why. I didn't realize until it was on council that was the email that come as a request, but we have a poster board at all of our facilities that we could post. It is for public, so there is a place in the memorial and the Kin Arena that we can post them as well in there. So, and also we can go to our leased spaces and ask them to post those as well.
Thank you. Councillor Earl?
So then is this request more just a function of the fact that they maybe don't have a staff member here in person who could go around and do it themselves, so they're asking us to do it on their behalf? Okay, so it's not anything new, it's just more formal than it maybe had to be.
And then the motions for City Hall building and Bork Aquatic Center. Okay. I'll call the vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. 7.4, we have a email from Dixie Kodalak, resident of Dawson Creek, August 31st, reason the excessive taxes and request for sidewalk repairs on 90th Avenue. I was just going to ask Kevin, could you speak to the sidewalk repairs? Do you know much about
that? So in regards to this email, just for a little bit of background, 90th Avenue was repaved, I believe it was probably about the late 90s. And at that time, we came in and just did an overlay. We didn't replace any curb, gutter, sidewalks, streetlights. We didn't do any of that, just simple overlay. Ms. Kodalak gave me a call here a few weeks back, concerned about the condition of the sidewalk, which there is some spots definitely, as you'll see in the pictures, that are, it is in tough shape, but we have a number of those sidewalks in, some older residential areas that are in very similar condition. And I just explained to her, the number of priorities we have, what we're trying to do and how we're going about it. And I just said she was free to submit a letter to council if she wanted to try and express that this should be a higher priority. And so that's where we're at. Right now, this sidewalk's not on a list to be repaired or replaced in the near future. There's just others that are in front of it, I guess, unless council would like to change that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Earl?
Nope.
Is there anybody that would make a motion? Councillor Wilbur?
I am going to make a motion, but I just want to explain why first. I think moving forward, we've heard earlier about our master transportation plan. I think we're going to have to look at our OCP. I think we're going to have to bring ourselves in line with the world today and look at some of these things that weren't necessarily identified before. This sidewalk is bad, so are many in the community, and we'll get there, but we have to do it through planning. So at this time, I would like to make a motion that we receive this letter as information.
A seconder? Councillor Earl? Any discussion? Oh, there's no discussion. Sorry.
No discussion
No.
about anything.
I was just testing you, Councillor Parslow.
But they can discuss it.
We'll call the vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. 7.5, we have a letter from Leanne Isu, Engaged Sport North Manager, Athletic and Community Engagement, Northern Lights College. Reason the request to use the field on the east side of the Lakota Agriplex on October 8th and 9th for camping and the removal of trash and manure. Blair, would you want to give an update on that? Or
Certainly, Mr. Chair. So the request is, there's a couple of requests here. One, they're requesting as they host their rodeo that camping be allowed for the contestants. It would be similar to the area used during the Fall Fair and Rodeo, just on the east side. So we've managed that in the past. They have indicated that they would look after garbage containers for the garbage in the site. They would also have them removed at their cost and looked after. The other request is as they stable their horses, whether it's tied to their trailers or in the pens that they may bring, portable pens, what would they do with that? They are asking, could they spread the manure in the field, which is, as they've said in their letter, very natural way to get rid of it, or would it be the wish of mayor and council to say, no, we would like you to remove it, pile it and remove it? That, in a nutshell, is what we're dealing with here. So,
thank you. Your motion, Councillor Parslow.
I move that we grant their request.
All
aspects of it.
if I could, there's two requests. One would be the spreading of manure versus hauling it away, and I'm not sure where you're at. I will give you from a CAO's perspective, I would suggest hauling it away would probably create less problems for the city in case it wasn't or still there when the field was being used again. Manure doesn't go away as quickly as we would like, but that is certainly your call. We will execute whatever the motion is.
Blair, are we not dealing with the manure too on a different, like with the building itself, right? Like we haven't.
So this is the Lakota Center actually piles and hauls their manure away.
That's right.
To go with anything short of that would seem to be a two-tier. I know this is probably a smaller amount of manure, but at some point, if I was the Lakota Center and we granted the ability to spread the manure for one group, I think I would see a request coming quite quickly.
Councillor President, did you want to amend or change your motion?
Yes, I missed that point, and my preference is they haul it. So thanks for the decision point there. Can I put that in the motion that we grant their request on the understanding that the manure will be hauled away?
Yeah. So for the camping and the camping and the trash removal.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I just get the motion read back just so we're all clear?
That council approve the request as presented with removal of trash and manure from the facility after the event.
Thank you. I have a second.
And that would include camping.
Okay. Thanks, Brenda. Councillor Kemp, second. Discussion? I'll call the vote. Vote is closed. Carried. 7.6, we got a letter from Todd Bonderoff, Northern Lights College. Mandy Graham, Engaged Sport North, and Lindsay Bork, Northern Lights College Foundation. Reason, request to obtain a special events liquor permit for the Lakota Agriplex on October 8th and 9th, 2022. Councillor Wilbur. Oh, sorry, Councillor Earl.
I'll move we grant the request.
Second, do I have a seconder? Councillor Kemp. Discussion, would you like to talk on behalf?
Sure. I just question through you to staff, Mr. Chair, is I don't recall a time in the past where we have had alcohol service in the Lakota Center. Is this a first time or is this something that's happened before?
It's my understanding it's the first time.
Okay.
The other thing that we just want to make sure that we identify here too is that we need to figure out who's applying for the liquor. There can't be three people. There needs to be one group, and then we need to suspend the liquor permit as well from the Ancana Event Center. And then within the request too, we need to make sure that they have insurance and that we have the proper security for serving alcohol like we do in the Memorial Arena when we have liquor there.
Yeah, that was my only. I mean, I think it's great they're bringing the event to town, and provided it's done safely, we want people to enjoy themselves. If that means an adult beverage or two, but I know, and having worked at the event center and dealing with the special permitting around it, and there are a lot of hoops to jump through, and I just want to make sure we've got our T's crossed and our I's dotted. So thank you for that.
Thank you. More discussion?
So where does that
Call the... Oh. Councillor Parslow.
So for change, I'm struggling to hear what Shante is saying. She usually speaks to me with quite a loud voice, but I think she's saying correctly that there's only one applicant, right? And so I'm just wondering where we are procedurally here with this motion. Does it need to be amended?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think we've got the understanding of the motion. It will be our job through administration to understand and speak to them to say who is the applicant for it. We'll ensure they meet all the requirements through safety and serving as we move forward. I think they may be at this point, there's really three players: Northern Lights College, the Foundation, and Engage Sport North. Which one of those? I would anticipate the Foundation is probably the beneficiary of the funds raised, so I'm not sure, but we will talk with the Northern Lights College and work out who is applying for this and make sure it meets all the legal requirements.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Call the vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. And that's all with correspondence. I think we'll just take a break, a 7-minute break here before we get into reports. So, reports. We have report 8.1. Report number 22-096 from the Development Service Manager. Reason the development variance permit 22-07 on 1929 109th Avenue. Councillor Javetkov.
I'll move the report number 22-096 from the Development Services Manager, redevelopment variance permit 22-07 1929 on 109th Avenue be received. Further, that the development variance permit number 22-07 for 1929 109th Avenue be issued, varying the total combined floor area of accessory buildings and accessory structures from 72.5 square meters per parcel to 93.42 square meters.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Kemp. Councillor Javetkov, did you want to talk to the motion?
No, straightforward.
Okay. Councillor Wilbur.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to staff. We don't see any future issues with laneways or anything like that moving forward. It's just, we see more and more of these variances. And again, I speak to the OCP because it's time that we look at larger sizes that are allowed depending on the size of the lot. It's just, we see this a lot. I mean, I'm going to vote in favor of the motion, but it's just a question I have. And I know over the years we've looked at things that were built in the past that now we're like, hey, that shouldn't have happened. So I just want to be clear that in moving this forward, that we're not going to see issues in the laneway.
Kevin.
So through you, Acting Mayor Dober, my understanding is the garage meets the size that we allow for garages. It's really about the total combined space because they also have a shed and we only allow a certain total for accessory buildings. Staff looked at it, and again, within that neighborhood, as it says in the report, there's garages and sheds, so it's not out of place. So we're comfortable with it, as well as the individual coming in early in the process and going through the process will ensure that everything's built, proper setbacks, and we don't have future problems. So should all be good.
Thank you. Any more discussion? No, I'll call the vote. Oh. The vote is closed. Carried. Well, you had to wait for me too. Report 8.2 is report number 22-097 from the Chief Financial Officer, reason the spring 2023 long-term debt issue. Councillor Parslow.
Report number 22-097 from the Chief Financial Officer, we request to borrow funds through security issue and be received. Further, I'm just playing games with Terry, sorry. I'll behave. Further, that Council approved borrowing from the Municipal Finance Authority of British Columbia as part of the 2020 spring borrowing session, $5 million as authorized through loan authorization, Capital Paving Program -22 to 25, bylaw number 4503/2021, and that the Peace River Regional District requested to consent to the city's borrowing over a 10-year term and include the borrowing in their security issuing bylaw.
Seconder, Councillor Wilbur, second. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Well, we've approved all this borrowing. It's a 4-year capital paving program, and this is just 1 year of it. So we'll probably do this 2 more times in the future.
Thank you. Councillor Earl? Oh, sorry, can you hit your button again?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think I mentioned in the past that while I have voted in favor of this, and I'm tentatively remain in favor of this, I'm keeping my eye on interest rates and inflation because things cost more and it costs more to borrow, and servicing that debt, you know, we do need to be mindful of that cost benefit analysis and whether it continues to make sense every year. And while, you know, I don't think when circumstances change, there's anything wrong with changing your mind. I know as noted in the report, the 2022 borrowing was done at 3.36. And as of this report, it's 3.56. So that's not a huge difference. Having said that, when it comes to next spring, that could vary greatly. So is the reason this report is in front of us today is so that we can lock in those rates now, or we're not going to. So this rate, the 3.56, may be 5.7 at spring of next year when it comes time to borrow for road work. We're borrowing $5 million without a fulsome understanding of what it could actually cost us to service that debt.
Terry?
Through you, Your Worship. That's correct. So it's a guessing game, and I brought it to senior staff about the whole borrowing and interest rates going up, and I feel in 2024 the city might have to hold off on borrowing just because of interest rates. I feel that I estimated 3.75 is what I think the interest rate might be, but we don't know until they do the issue, and then that interest rate's locked in for 10 years. There's no adjusting it. So,
okay.
But at the time, MFA reported 3.56.
So if we're sure we're going to go ahead with it anyway, what is the downside to borrowing it right now and putting it in a registered account for 6 months to accrue interest? And then is it just the interest payments on that for the 6 months?
What do you mean borrowing right now?
Well, to secure the borrow as opposed to waiting till spring if we're borrowing $5 million.
Because long-term debt is only spring and fall issues. So you could short-term borrow, but we'd have to pay it back within 5 years.
Okay.
Which would be more expensive for
all
the
right,
city.
that makes sense. Thank you. That was where I was unclear, just because the way it was phrased was, you know, not knowing what that's going to cost us, and that is, you know, a significant difference depending on what it is. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Well, I'll call the vote. Councilor Parslow? Oh, we're good? Oh, never mind. Vote is closed. That's carried. 8.3, we have report number 22-098 from the Chief Financial Officer, reason the 2023 budget assumption. Councillor Kempf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation that report number 22-098 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding 2023 budget assumptions and timeline report be received. Further, that 1, the 2023 budget assumptions be approved as presented. 2, the 2023 financial plan be based on the principles and values included in the city's vision, mission, and guiding principles documents and other city bylaw and policy documents. And 3, the methodology used in preparing the 2023 financial plan be based on an integrated and long-term approach to setting tax rates, fees, and charges and service provisions.
Seconder. Councillor Earl. Would you like to speak to that? No? Any discussion? I'll call the vote. Vote's closed. It's carried. 8.4, report number 22-100 from the Chief Financial Officer, reason the UBCM 2022 Asset Management Planning Program grant. Councillor Parslow.
I move that report number 22-100 from the Chief Financial Officer, UBCM 2022 Asset Management Planning Program grant be received. Further, that the City of Dawson Creek supports the grant application to the 2022 Asset Management Planning Program for the city's asset management plan with an estimated project cost of $150,000, of which the city commits 50% of the funding.
A second. Councillor Earl. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Parslow?
Well, the capital asset planning is an integral part of what we must do. And I believe this is not an option, this is a requirement. And we'd be foolish not to apply for a grant to assist us to do this work. And this is going to be a major challenge for the city in not only developing the plan, but financing it. But it's integral core work.
Any other discussion? I'll call the vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. It says defeated. No. Okay, I'll redo the vote. Okay, things closed. It's carried. Number 8.5, we have report number 22-095 from the corporate officer, reason election day transit service. Councillor Wilbur? No, one sec. Oh, sorry, Councillor Kempf.
Thank you. I'll move the recommendation that report number 22-095 from the corporate officer regarding election day transit service be received. Further, that the City of Dawson Creek approves that public transit fees be waived for the 2022 municipal election for advanced voting days on October 5th and 12th and the general voting day on October 15th.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Wilbur. Discussion? No, I'll call the vote. Vote is closed. That's carried. Okay. 8.6, we have report number 22-099 from the corporate officer, reason 2023 council meeting schedule. Councillor Kempf.
Thank you. I'll move the recommendation that report number 22-099 from the corporate officer regarding 2023 council meeting schedule be received. Further, that council adopts the following 2023 council meeting schedule: January 9th and 23rd, February 6th and 27th, March 13th and 27th, April 10th and 24th, May 8th and 29th, June 12th and 26th, July 17th, August 14th, September 11th and 25th, October 16th and 30th, November 13th and 27th, and December 11th.
Have a seconder? Councillor Wilbur, discussion? I'll call the vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. 8.7, we have report number 22-103 from the corporate officer, reason acting mayor committee appointments. Councillor Kemp.
Thank you. I'll move the recommendation, the report number 22-103 from the corporate officer regarding acting mayor committee appointments be received. Further, that acting mayor Darcy Dober be appointed to the following: Dawson Creek and District Hospital Capital Project Advisory Committee, Emergency Policy Committee, Peace River Regional District Director, including the Dawson Creek and Poughkeepsie Fire Management Committee, Peace River Regional District, and the Sub-Regional Recreation Peace River Regional District, and Site C Regional and Local Government Liaison Committee. Further, that Councillor Shaylee Wilbur be appointed to the following: Peace River Regional District Alternate Director and Site C Regional and Local Government Liaison Committee Alternate.
Have a seconder? For a second, do I get a seconder? Councillor Earl? Any discussion? Councillor Wilbur?
I only just wanted to touch on MIABC that is in the report. So Councillor Earl is also an alternate for that, but there will be some stuff coming out in the next month or so as a result of the AGM. So I am the representative, but just so that we know, Councillor Earl is also listed as an alternate in case I'm not able to participate.
Okay. Any more discussion? To call the vote? Vote is closed. It's carried. All right. Number 9, bylaws. There was nothing under bylaws. Number 10 is mayor's business. 10.1. The staff last Tuesday there was a staff appreciation barbecue, so I just wanted to touch on it. I had the opportunity to attend it. It was nice to see all the leaders of the city there sweating away and cooking. And it was nice to see all the staff actually come, and everybody was, there seemed to be like some good culture and camaraderie there. So it was just nice to see. So, and it was, good to meet some of the people and the staff that, work day and day for our city. So just thank you to everybody that organized that. It was, I think it looked like it was well perceived. So, and then that's all I had for my mayor's update. And then 10.2, we have the delegation. So the first responders day. Blair, did you want to give us like a bit of a update or what your thoughts are on that?
All right. Certainly, Mr. Chair. So the request is for the city to designate a day throughout the year as First Responders Appreciation Day. We heard the delegation this morning speak to it, very passionate. It really will come down to what the wish of the elected body here at our city would like to do, whether we would want to do our own in the city or whether we wanted to pursue pushing the province or the federal government to implement one on their own. But again, should the city wish to proceed, it is something we could do. I would probably recommend that it would be in conjunction with a community group versus the city taking it on. I think that would be something I would look to from the community should mayor and council wish to proceed with this. But I'm not sure what more I can bring other than it is, should you decide, the cause is worthy without question. Yeah. Does it fit with the direction of council to say we are going to designate this day as a First Responder Appreciation Day? Do we want to tie it in? Would it be spring? would it be fall, winter? I'm, again, wide open to what the wishes of yourselves are. So,
Thank you. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I echo the sentiments of our CAO. I think this is a very worthy cause and a wonderful initiative, and I thank the delegation for bringing it to us. I am hesitant in the sense that I don't want to go and try reinventing the wheel. If there's a wheel out there that we could, look to for guidance as to how other, obviously we don't have the capacity of Toronto, and if it's just a special day, great. I do think exploring it, if there is going to be some kind of ceremonial aspect to it, similar to, I guess, Remembrance Day, you take the lead from the Legion and you assist them as needed. I think it's a worthwhile thing. I think we need to have a better understanding of what other communities do, and if this is better served as a provincial or federal initiative, that's fine. In the meantime, while we advocate for that, we can do something. But I don't want to go off flying by the seat of our pants and then find out it's something that's half formed somewhere else, and we're then confusing the two. And I'd look at, like, between the federal and provincial government, Small Business Week and Small Business Month. There's always is some overlap between the two, but they're doing two different things at the same time. And it just adds confusion to an issue where, front and center should be, the first responders, not municipalities and different levels of government tripping over each other with different initiatives. So that's my one concern, but I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. Do we need a motion to be discussing this under mayors? Okay. Is there anybody that would like to make a motion? Councillor Wilbur?
We don't make motions for discussion, so I would like to make a motion that we grant the request for the city to have a day of recognition for our first responders. I don't have a specific date, though. Is that an issue? Before I complete my motion. Because I would like to speak to it, so...
Mr. Chair, maybe just before the second or the finalization, it may be worthwhile if what I'm hearing is council is supportive of this. We're unsure of the day. We would work with our first responders, I think, to see what is happening there, or if there's some continuum from other communities. But it may be that mayor and council do a proclamation.
Thank you.
On the day, whether it be at the meeting before the day we land on, to say the proclamation would be that we have a First Responders Appreciation Day in the city of Dawson Creek, following which community groups could pick up on that and do what they so wished, whether it be a barbecue, whatever it would be. Yeah. But the city's obligation would be saying, we concur with the request if that's the wish of mayor and council, and we would declare a proclamation based on a day that we would bring back to this body after we've had discussions with the first responders in our community to see if they have a preference. If it's about them and showing our appreciation for them, I think engaging in a discussion with them about it would be appropriate.
Yeah, and even I think communicating with Melody and Alanda, like they might, be that committee that would maybe organize something and have some input. So okay.
I guess to Brent F, we got a motion out of that. So Blair, our CAO, just sucked everything out of my brain. So that's where I was going. I was thinking a proclamation. Nowhere in the delegation's written presentation or what she said was she asking us to advocate for national or provincial holidays. She was just asking for the city to have a day of recognition, which to me is a proclamation. It's just the day is what we don't have. So if Brenda got a motion out of what I was thinking and our CAO so eloquently said for me, then I would move that motion.
Okay. Can I get to repeat what the motion is before I ask for a second?
Through you, Acting Mayor, from what I understand, the motion is to have the city declare a proclamation on the day that is decided upon through discussion with the delegation and first responders.
Yep. Correct?
Yep.
Okay. Can I get a seconder? You want a second? Councillor Earl, discussion. Did you still want to talk to that?
No.
Okay. Councillor Parslow.
Well, I'm going to speak against the motion. I think we should look at this as being linked to the real challenge of recruitment and retention. My understanding of first responders is beyond firefighters, police officers, ambulance crews, and so on. It's really dealing with frontline workers. And one of the things that I learned at UBCM was the tremendous challenge municipalities are going to have in recruiting skilled people and retaining them. I've got all the figures, but I don't have them here. They're on my other notes I left at home. I think the city spends a lot of money on some things. I think we have lots of proclamations, and the significance of retaining and recruiting frontline workers can be facilitated, I think, by having a city and community-led recognition day, a proclamation. I know we have lots of proclamations. I'm not against having a proclamation only if it's part of something more. I think that there are some groups, such as the Rotary Club, right, who would be very keen, and other agencies in supporting this. Because if showing the value and appreciation to people, if I'm speaking as a former teacher, I know that for regular classroom teachers, the most important thing that is to recognize their worth and their contribution. Money is not to the fore with according to the Phi Delta Kappa research. It's how a community shows its appreciation. So I'm speaking against this motion because I think we need to do a lot more and consider it as part of a retention recruitment. We know that many agencies are struggling to find people, and when they do find them, they often leave quite quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Oh, keep forgetting to look at my screen. Councillor Wilbur.
Thank you. I would be prepared to change the wording of first responder to frontline worker as an amendment. But I also want to be clear that my motion stems from the request of the delegation. The aspect of recruitment, of recognition, all of these other things are a much larger piece that we've got a lot of work ahead of us. This, to my understanding from the delegation, and please correct me if I'm wrong, they have already reached out to groups within the community that would be happy to put something together as a celebration, as a community event. The request wasn't for the city to do that. The request was for us to create a day as a recognition, which we would do through proclamation. However, I am prepared to put the amendment forward that we change it from first responder to frontline workers. If I'm doing that appropriately.
So we need a seconder to the amendment. Councillor Kempf. Any discussion with the new motion and amendment? Just the amendment? Okay. No? Oh. Councillor Parslow.
It's not... Technically, you can rule me out of order, but I'm going to sneak the question in any rate. I'm wondering if your understanding is that they were only requesting a day. Is that the impression that you have, Acting Mayor?
Yeah, the impression was that they're wanting a day to be recognized for first responders. And, you know, I don't know about changing the wording because it's about first responders. That's what they asked for. It's not about, you know, everybody else. So I don't...
okay, it wasn't... Okay.
That's what my understanding was.
Sure.
Blair?
I'm going back to first responders is used quite regularly throughout the country. As far as a frontline worker, I'm not sure I could give you a definition that would encompass that other than every person that provides a service in our city we want to appreciate, and hopefully we do that each and every day. So it would certainly be up to you. If frontline workers is where you land on this, I think you may want to think about defining what you intend to encompass in that wording, whereas first responders is pretty generic across the country and may or may not capture the workers that Councillor Parslow is talking about. They may in some instance, or they may not.
Yeah, I feel similar that it could be two different things. So,
Very quick.
Councillor Wilper?
I did take note that the delegation did speak to workers in the hospital and others. So they were recognizing all of those people who provide service, have provided service through COVID-19 and continue to do so. So I do think she presented a broader picture. I'm fine with either, but I would like to make sure that the motion makes everybody comfortable. Thank you.
No more discussion? So I had to call the amendment to vote. Good. So it's carried. Now I will, is there any?
Call the question as amended.
And no more discussion, right? Just call it. Okay. Was there any more discussion on the original motion? No. Okay. I will call the motion as amended to vote. The motion is defeated. Is there anybody like to make another motion?
I don't think we can do that on the same topic.
No? Okay, so it's just we move on? Okay.
Dealt with the business, yeah.
All right, 10.3, we have the delegation proposed safe injection site on 8361 103rd Avenue. I don't think there's much here because there was no ask of us. So we can just move on?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe your review of that is correct. There was a delegation that presented their feelings about what I heard was should a TUP be put forward before Mayor and Council for consideration. Their hope is that engagement will take place with the community and allow input from the others as well. It was really, I thought, a presentation based on concerns expressed out there without the ask at this point.
Okay. Thank you. So moving on, we got 11, the Chief Administrative Officer Operational Update.
Your Worship, not a lot to report right now on this. The one I would point people back to, and we went by it and we adopted it for information, was the Chief Financial Officer's Budget Assumptions Report. I would encourage the public. I think it is a very good document. It gives you a high-level understanding of the city's budget, where money comes from, where it is slated to go. But for those people that are interested in the city's finances, I encourage people to look at that document. It was well put together, and I know that it's a result of a lot of hard work over the last 4 years by yourselves. So I just wanted to point that out. All right.
Thank you. Councilor Parslow?
Well, can I respond to what was just said? Well, I agree with you. I'm just wondering, in light of some correspondence that you have circulated, and this may be well premature, but I'm wondering if that report should be circulated to some organizations that have or interests, like the Rotary, like the Chamber of Commerce and stuff, so they have something to begin to reflect on. Because I'm just thinking of some emails that you've received concerning people's surprise about tax rates and stuff,
Right.
even though they were well announced and so on. Just trying to be proactive.
All right. I mean, it may be one that we could work more closely with our Chamber of Commerce. Not every business is a member of the Chamber, though. We will certainly encourage people, put it on our website to make sure people are aware. I will turn my mind to how better to get it out there, but this is public information. I just thought it was, sometimes we do overlook as society. We want to cut taxes, we want to do this, but there's no real other option brought to say which services would you cut in order to get that reduction, for instance. So let me turn my mind to that, Councillor, and see how we can better get it out. I certainly think the Chamber of Commerce would be an appropriate one right off. The Rotary clubs, I think if we're going to do that, you may want to include all service clubs. So, but again, my point was exactly as you've reiterated. Let's get this out as far and wide as we can. It is, I think it's a good document that outlines where the city's finances are at, the work that has been accomplished by this mayor and council and previous ones. But we sometimes here at the city and elected officials and administrative work on it day to day. So we take it for granted where a document like this, I wanted to reiterate, as I said earlier, this is an important document that can give people a very good overview of where our city's at. So,
Thank you. Moving on, 12, diary. Is there anything new to report?
nothing new to report on the diary, Your Worship.
Thank you. 13, the consent calendar. Do we got a motion to receive? Councillor Kemp, motion, second. Councillor Wilbur. Call the vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Strategic priorities, 14, 2022 strategic priorities. I don't think we have anything.
Nothing to report, Your Worship. That will be as the election is approaching. A new council will engage in a strategic planning session as well to look at previous strategic priorities, set their own goals and priorities for the upcoming term as well. So,
okay. Thank you. 15, media questions. We don't have any media. 16, recess to close. So just need a motion to move into the closed meeting to discuss items as noted in item 16.1. Councillor Wilbur, motion. Okay, a second. Councillor Kemp, I'll call the vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. So we'll take a 5-minute break and move into closed.